Just a, our first class focused on the tension. On the one hand, we see much in our tradition that focuses on a universalist perspective that welcomes in all, that values all, that sees a place for all. We see that in our ancestry, and we see that in our texts, with the characters and the words. On the other hand, we see a need and a demand from our tradition, from the Torah, to separate ourselves, not to fully integrate with the peoples of the world, at times to act with gvura, to act with much restriction, constriction, pushing away, hopefully as a as part of an end goal of bringing close, but the reality of that tension between my desire for a universalist, holistic love that fills all and that recognizes the goodness of all, and the need to wait and to draw distinctions in order to reach that eventually is what produces the faculty of prayer. There's something deep in my heart that I want to be fulfilled in the world, yet I can't fulfill it right now. Not only because it's difficult, but because this is a process, it's an unfolding that is revealed through time. Last week, we took a step back and said to really understand this tension and to understand the role of the Jewish people in the world and the idea of our chosenness to fulfill some sort of role, we have to understand the role of the world in the first place, the goal of the world, the mission of the world, the purpose of creation. We delved into some very deep esoteric texts that we tried to run through pretty quickly. And I'm going to read through the summary that I sent you quickly, because it is a complex process that I want to um, that I want to really um, I guess be specific in. So last week we focused on the purpose of creation according to Arizal, the modern transformer of the Kabbalah and Zohar into what we know of it at this time. Bestowing good upon all creation, but bestowing good upon all creation is presented as the primary purpose of God's creation. But bestowing good demands the existence of an other. There is nothing in the infinitude of God to bestow good upon. Therefore, we need, God needs to create the other. But the ultimate good is not just to bestow good upon a receiver, but to invite that receiver to become a giver too, to become a merkava, a chariot for Hashem's presence and Hashem's attributes, such that it's not sufficient for God to simply give us apples and candies and delicious, yummy foods in order that we enjoy. We must also have to go through challenges and struggles and choices in order to be able to be a Merkava, a chariot for God's presence. Becoming a chariot embodying godliness in this world requires the ability to choose godliness. If I receive godliness to the extent that I cannot choose otherwise, I'll always be a passive receiver of the good and will never embody the true character traits of godliness, which is creativity, the love and choice to give, to care for. If it's simply, if it's simply the way in which I'm built, and God just gives me all the good, and I never have to choose it, I am not actually a true bestower and chooser of good. Only through the capacity to choose godliness can I become a vehicle for godliness, a giver rather than a receiver. This free choice depends upon God's distance, God's hiddenness. We didn't touch upon this last week, but this world in Hebrew is called an olam. The word olam, its root is he'elem, which means hiddenness. The definition of this world is the place in which God is hidden. Rabbi David Aaron likens it to a sun. Really, it's the Balatanya who likens it to a sun. We're going to see the Balatanya today. A sun with rays. The rays are part of the sun, and when they're inside the sun, they're not even considered rays. They're just the sun. You wouldn't consider a ray of a sun until that ray is separate from the sun. But let's say the sun decided to give a few of its rays some sunglasses, such that the rays didn't realize they were in the sun and they felt that they were each individual rays. And they see the other rays and they're like, oh, you're a cool ray. Hey, how's it going? They start building friendships, realizing some connectivity, but they don't realize that they're both the sun. They're both elements of the sun who are truly one. So this is the reality of this world. We're all within the sun being God, the sun being ultimate one, but we're wearing the glasses of olam, of he'elem, of hiddenness, in which we don't see that oneness, and therefore we have a sense of self and other. Okay, we're going to go a little bit faster. This free choice depends upon God's distance, as we said. But God therefore contracts himself. This is what we call the tzimtzum in our tradition, creating a reality in which his presence is hidden. The tzimtzum is the process through which God makes space for us. But here's the problem. God too desires to have space in this world. God desires to dwell among us, as we saw in the Midrash. Hitava shelo dira batachtonim. He wants to dwell upon us. But the paradox is that in order for this world to exist, he can't dwell upon us. He needs to distance himself. So it's our choice. The only way for us to exist and to really have the ultimate good is for God to be completely hidden. For us to have true space, God needs to have no space in this world, in which case it's our choice to make space for God. That's what we discussed as our primary purpose. And we discussed that really within that purpose, there's a threefold task, a threefold mission: to make space for God, to make space for the godliness in others, because truly God is revealed through all. So making space for the other. And ultimately, both of those are dependent and contingent upon making space for myself, meaning embracing who I am, a limited creature who is not you and who is not God. As long as I'm unable to accept that, I'm always going to try to take control when it's really God's control. I'm going to try to infringe upon his role in this world. I'm always going to try to push the other away or distance myself in some sort of competitive seeking to be stronger than, greater than, more powerful than the other. We're seeking to make space. This sums up our purpose. Now the question is, so how do Jewish people achieve this purpose? We got it pretty simplified. Not that this is like, I'm sharing a perspective, but how do we do this? How do we make space for God, for others, for ourselves, and reach a perfect world? I wanted to add one more thing, which is an important note. Judaism is often understood as a religion, and religions are often understood as a path towards God. Now, I don't know if the latter is true, that religions are a path to God. I'm not familiar with our religions, but I do know that Judaism is certainly not limited to being a path to God. It's not one of the paths to God. As we've delineated the understood purpose of our mystical tradition, and it's reflected in our revealed tradition as well in the Midrash, is not for us to get to God, but for God to get to us. The role of our people in this world is not to reach some enlightened experience of connectivity with the all. That might be a necessity, but the ultimate goal is to draw godliness down into this world such that the oneness of God is fully revealed within our reality. So our role is not just we don't we're with this background, not understanding our tradition as some path upwards, but really a path towards drawing down. And that's our question. How are we going to fulfill this path? We'll discuss this more later, how this is the essence of the prayer of Shema, the prayer of Aleinu. It's the prayer of Shalom. They all reflect this truth, this goal, this purpose. But it's an important note as we jump into this second session. We're going to pause there. Any questions before we dive in? Okay. Yeah, yeah, Linda, please. You can just jump. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not this is a procedural question. Did
Okay.
you send an email this week to us?
Yes. Were you
I
not? You
did.
didn't receive it?
No, I didn't get it because so in other words, included in the email was the summary that you just explicated.
That's right.
Okay, so I'll take care of that later with you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for noting that. And you'll note also that the source sheet um, is updated. I the day of, I get very excited. And like I really feel like throughout the week much of the curriculum was developed prior to the start of the course entirely, but each week it's really alive and percolating through me, and I do much um thinking and researching the day of. So there's a little bit more. It was an exciting day. It was a fun day. Well, we're gonna add some interesting stuff. Okay, we're ready? Great. Okay, let me make sure it is large enough for you. Okay. Okay. To begin, we'll just look at a simple and relatively famous source from the Jerusalem Talmud that Kol dor she'eno nivna biyamav בית המקדש, מעלין עליו כאילו הוא החריבו. That every generation in which the temple is not built, it's as if they have destroyed it. I open with that just because we ended last week with Moses building the tabernacle. And I was like, wow, he did it. He brought godliness down into the world. And we saw that for the first 7 generations of humanity, God was not given a place, other was not given a place, self was not accepted and embraced. God distanced himself from this world, 7 layers. Slowly, our ancestry brought generation after generation God back down into this world. We're now in a ping pong. I don't know exactly where God's Shekhinah is, where the indwelling place is. Is it 1 layer up? Is it 2? Is it 3? But we have the potential in this generation to be the Moses who brings God's indwelling presence back into this world. And our tradition tells us that every generation has the possibility. There's just a short story in which the Baal Shem Tov, I believe, uh, um, was told by Elijah. I don't remember the details of the story, but that was told that Mashiach was in this certain place. So he went off immediately to go find him. He went and found him, and he said, "Why haven't you yet revealed yourself? When are you coming?" And he said, "I'm coming today." Amazing. He was so excited. And he went back home. There you go, got dressed up for the occasion. Nothing happened. So he went back to him the next day. He said, "What happened?" He said, "You're going today." He said, "You're coming." He said, and Mashiach said, "Every day I'm coming. The question is whether you will embrace me and whether you will receive me." So we have the opportunity in every generation, today, tomorrow, to draw that presence down. So let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do, what the voice of our people is within that process. The people of Israel are tasked with drawing the presence of God down, giving God a space in this world. How might we do so? From the start, we were defined in a unique and interesting way. In Parashat Lech Lecha, the first of our ancestors, Avraham, was defined as Avraham HaIvri, the Hebrew. This is who we are. We are the Hebrews. הוא שוכן באלוני מרמרי, האמורי, אחי, אשכול, אחי ענה, okay. What is this Avraham Ivri, the defining feature of Abraham, which is the defining feature that remains among our people generation after generation? The Midrash says, Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabbi Nechem v'Rabbanan. There are three opinions as to what this word Ivri means. Rabbi Yehuda omer, Kol ha'olam kulo me'ever echad v'hu me'ever echad. The whole world is on one side and Avraham's on the other. The nature of our people is that we're always the other. This is what Rabbi Yehuda says. Rabbi Nechemah says something a little bit otherwise. Shehu mibnei banav shel Ever, we're the descendants of Ever. I don't know what's hidden within that understanding. But Rabbanan say similarly, Hu me'ever hanahar. He's from the other side. And he speaks another language. He's other. He's different. Abraham is different. Bilam, in seeking to curse our people, ends up blessing us. How this is a blessing, we'll discover in a moment. But one of his blessings to our people, Hen am levadad yishkon uvagoim lo yitchashav. This is a people who dwell alone, not reckoning themselves one of the nations. Why is that a blessing? Why is it the defining feature of our people? Many of us would prefer that it not be so. But alas, we are hit with this reality, whether we like it or not. Not just from the history, the textual context, the Torah. We're hit it with every generation. Like somehow the whole world's on one side and we're there alone on the other. We're feeling like, how did everyone turn their backs on us? This is an opportunity. We're not going to do this every week, but it's an opportunity for Chavruta. This text is a long one, a beautiful one by Rabbi Sachs. And we could read it together, but I think it's an opportunity to connect with one another. It's in the source sheet that I sent you, but if you don't have it there, then I will send a link. I'm going to link it to the I'm going to link it in the chat now. So we're going to do this for 10 minutes and we'll come back to discuss. It'll be random. If you don't love herewith, pretend you do. Okay. Just kidding. I'm sure you'll love herewith. I'm sure you'll love it. Incredible people. Okay. Okay. I'm going to send the link in just a moment. You can begin. Were you able to have time to get through the text?
No, it's a very long text.
It's very high.
We just talk very, seriously about the anti-Semitism in my country and in Ukraine.
Yes, yes.
So we have the
There's
very
much to speak.
modern, talk about.
Yeah, no, we'll
So
we'll we'll point out the
We
primary.
skim read
Yeah,
yeah,
the
great. Well,
scene. Yeah.
no, if you're able to focus on one piece and speak that out to everyone, no, that's perfect. And
yeah.
we'll focus on the key
We
points.
just exchange our, experience with Muslims. So
Interesting.
With the Muslim Brotherhood
yes.
Well,
that we've got. Yeah.
okay. Welcome back. Was anybody able to get through the text in its entirety?
No.
Not even close.
Okay. Great. So I just want to view some, because it's likely you haven't gotten there. I want to look at the conclusion together and then we'll open it up for discussion. Just a moment. So we begin, of course, with discussing Rabbi Sachs discussing the loneliness of people of Israel, the mistake of seeking to fully integrate, the mistake of rejecting our otherness, the um, the mistake of thinking that in assimilating or rejecting our otherness, we will then be loved and no longer be hated by the other, and that is in fact the opposite. The case is truly the opposite. He discusses anti-Semitism and unpacks that a little bit, but I want to jump in here towards the end of his words. We have nothing to apologize for in our insistence on being different. Judaism began as a protest against empires, symbolized by Babel in Genesis and ancient Egypt in Exodus. These were the first great empires, and they achieved the freedom of the few at the cost of the enslavement of the many. Jews have always been the irritant of empires because of our insistence on the dignity of the individual and his or her liberty. Anti-Semitism is either the last gasp of a declining culture or the first warning sign of a new totalitarianism. God commanded our ancestors to be different, not because they were better than others. We'll discuss that more. It's not because of our righteousness that the Lord your God, of your righteousness, the Lord your God is giving you this land, says the Torah in Deuteronomy, but because by being different, we teach the world the dignity of difference. Empires seek to impose unity on a plural world. Jews know that unity exists only in heaven. God creates diversity
Wow.
on earth. The true reflection of God's unity on earth is the love of diversity, is the love of the other. For that, you need somebody who's willing to be the other universally or forever, unwilling to give up on its otherness, demanding that the world ultimately embraces otherness. There's one fundamental, okay. I'm not going to read that paragraph. I'm just going to skip the last paragraph. You can, of course, read this at home. None of this is to diminish the seriousness with which we must join with others to fight anti-Semitism and every other religious or racial hate. Let the words, but let the words of the Netziv stay with us. We should never abandon our distinctiveness. It is what makes us who we are. Nor is there any contradiction between this and the universalism of the prophets. To the contrary, and this is the life-changing idea. It's in a book called Life-Changing Ideas. In our uniqueness lies our universality. By being what only we are, we contribute to humanity what only we can give.
Wait, can
Rabbi
you just
Sacks.
clarify, is this all the words of Rabbi Jonathan Sacks?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is all Rabbi Sacks. I couldn't take anything out. His words are so beautiful and poetic, um, I wish he was teaching this class. In the next world, we'll all sit with Rabbi Sachs and he'll teach us. Okay. I'm opening up the floor for discussion. Your thoughts on this. Would love to hear um, how this speaks to you, where this aligns with you, where it might not, where this challenges you.
I might as well break the ice. Um, I feel like I hear, I'm very addicted to a whole bunch of different podcasts these days. And I feel like I hear much of this sentiment that how do we combat anti-Semitism and everything that's going on, and by being stronger Jews, by knowing who we are, by teaching our children, by loving Judaism and really knowing ourselves. But in our conversation, Linda was with us for a little while. Yes, we were together. We were talking about the idea of this concept of loving the other and how that's the way we're not all Americans, but I think, consider ourselves to be pretty liberal people who care about other people and have compassion. Where does that put us in our decisions of whom to have compassion for and whom not to? Who are trying, who are enemies and who are just others, and that we need to, how do we hold that love for others while we're worrying about our existence and continuity and yeah.
Right. It would be untrue to deny that the protectivism of our people over many generations of exile, which certainly seems to have been necessary in order to sustain our people, has also resulted in some perspectives of hate or of looking down upon others from within the Jewish people. And it's a dangerous hole to fall down. And it's a very tightrope, right? I mean, Rabbi Nachman says, Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tzamo, like the whole world is a very, very narrow bridge. It's very easy to fall on either side. How do you remain that tightrope of being universally open? On the other hand, whatever. Yeah, okay. I don't have the words. Hannah, Tony, please. We can.
Just to that point, Rena, it brings to mind a book that I've read a couple of times by Sarah Yehudit Schneider, which is called You Are What You Hate, but the subtitle is A Spiritually Productive Guide to Dealing with Enemies. And I reread it after October 7, and summarizing it in a ridiculous and almost meaningless manner. But my memory of it is that she's channeling a teaching of praying for compassion to fill the heart of the enemy, and in the meantime, in case that doesn't happen, preparing for war. So yeah, thank you, Nadav. And I found that a very helpful way for me to sort of handle some of my feelings and my distress and what to do with my own rage and despair and the whole mix of feelings and what's wrong with me if I can't sort of love the other, etc. Anyway.
Before I turn to Alan, I'll just reflect that in this week's parasha, when Yaakov returns to meet Esav, the Midrash understands that he did three things. He sent gifts, which we see explicitly. He prayed to God, which we see. and he prepared for war. And this has been the practice. Send out the love, prepare for war, ask God to intervene. Alan, please.
I heard Art Green give a talk recently, and as part of the talk, how we survive after October 7th, he pointed to the discussion between Rabbi Akiva and another rabbi. What's the most important verse in the Torah? And Akiva's is, love your neighbor as thyself. And the other rabbi says, B'Tselem Elohim, humans were created. And Art went on to make the point, yes, we should try to love our neighbors as ourself, but that isn't always possible. And it's not always going to happen. And even if it's not possible, we should bear in mind that they too are created, B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. And that to me was helpful, just of framing that, yeah, there are a lot of people I'm not going to hate, but I've got to not demonize them and realize we're all creations of the divine, or none of us are.
One or the other. It's the tightrope. Okay. Yes, Anna, please. Anna.
Only short. I forgot now the name of the writer from Jerusalem. There was 3 years ago he wrote, because I am from Jerusalem, so I know him personally, and I forgot his name, but he wrote The Letter to My Neighbors. Maybe you know this book. And it's because his neighbors with the Palestinians. Yeah, with the Palestinians. So he wrote, but there was the other time, and after, when it was happening in October, he had some, meeting with people after this book. And my opinion, we changed so much after October. I don't want to say that we hate or not hate, but we changed mentality. So what was before October, it's completely changed because we have many writers in Israeli. They was, they wrote book about the with the Palestinian, neighbors, friendships, the mentality. So they grow up with the neighbors, Palestinian. After October, it's so many change. Then even I don't want to talk about this because I don't know who now in Jerusalem is still like before or it's after. So October is completely something.
100%. Yeah, that definitely rocked the boat a lot. Okay, Harry, please.
What about when you have a really extreme ideological difference with your neighbors, like we had with the Canaanites originally? So we were told to wipe them out. Maybe we've got very big ideological differences with some other groups, and we're not going to get on. People skirt around the issue. Who are the problems on the planet? It's not us. We're tiny. It's the Christians and the Muslims. Let's just get it out there and say it. These are the people that have superseded us in their mind, who are calling us super. But I'm not worried about the Buddhists and the Hindus and the Sikhs and all these other religions. It's just these two. I have an ideological difference with them. I have very little in common. I work in a multi-faith chaplaincy, so I'm around and I talk with them. But we have such fundamental differences that, of course, I pull myself away from them. They're human. They have their rights to their beliefs. But my interactions have become less and less because of October the 7th. But also, I've realized the blinkers are off what's going on and why this is happening. And for me, it feels such a huge ideological blind spot that I can't imagine how I get over that one with them.
Yeah, I'll tell you,
The
Harry,
Canaanites. I've given up.
interesting is that in some ways in what Rabbi Sachs is saying, it's certainly the case that just in terms of an ideology, the ideology of Christianity and Islam is both have an ideology of converting or conquering, and it's been very common in their history of seeking that the world be like them. I mean, ultimately, one only makes it to um, I don't know exactly what it's called, the world to come, if they believe in Christ. I don't know exactly the details of what Islam preaches, but it's in fundamental contrast with our valuing of the 70 nations and believing that the 70, that the 70 nations, and we'll discuss in a future class that the temple that our tradition has sought to build is a Beit Tfilah Lekol Amim. We're seeking to build a home of prayer for all nations. While unfortunately the prayer space that is currently there is limited to a single people. And technically all others are outlawed to pray there. So on the one hand, it's certainly the case, and Rav Sachs speaks of that. And on the other hand, Christianity and Islam are they are the children of our tradition. We see Christianism as actually part of Judaism's success in making the world a more monotheistic world in which they're serving God. And it's spoken about all over the place within our tradition that, like, in some ways, the the spreading of monotheism through Christian Islam ultimately, I think we'll find, listen, I don't know what the end of the days are going to look like, but ultimately I think we'll find that um, that they are also this is also a divine mechanism towards that is bringing us towards um, a more perfected world. That Christian and Islam are part of that. They're not a negation of that, but they're challenging pieces of it. Okay, yeah, thank you, Harry. That's it. Yes, Alan.
Yeah, many years ago, I think at least 15 years ago, I attended a week-long workshop, Children of Abraham workshop down in Connecticut. Hartford, I forget the name of the college it was located. And they were representatives from people all around the world, about 20 of us, representing the three religions of Abraham. And as much as we are different, not negating the difference, but it's important to not negate the similarities we have to each other, and that we're all children of Abraham and children of God. When we remember how to be with the other. And also at the same time, I think the more we in discussion with the other, explain to them what being a Jew is, so that from our perspective, of course, but being what a Jew is, then that kind of a sharing lowers the barrier a bit. And we don't often get a chance to do that.
Yeah.
Wish we did more.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Alan. And we also saw recently that both Ishmael and Yitzchak buried Abraham together.
Mm-hmm.
Our tradition understands that Ishmael does tshuva in the end, not just Ishmael as the individual, but as a people, and that ultimately we will come together. And it's hard to see. It's hard to understand the exact path forward. But I do think that Alan's absolutely right that there are a lot of similarities, in some ways, many more similarities than the Jews and the Hindus. But among the Jews and Hindus, also many similarities. Ultimately, as I think Alan shared from Art Green, that B'Tselem Elokim, we can't forget that everyone is God's children, and ultimately forgetting that is the ultimate forgetting to be a Jew. That the uniqueness and individuality of each individual, the preciousness, we shouldn't fall into the mistakes that others may have made or that we may have made at times to think that only one type of people is B'Tselem Elohim and not others. That's what we're trying to protect, as Rabbi Sachs shared. So putting up those boundaries while understanding that I'm being in pain, that I have to put up boundaries against, against people who are really, really so beautiful on the inside. Okay, Linda, we're almost, yeah.
So I really appreciate that we're talking about this, and I appreciate the fact that other people have shared that they too found October 7th to be such an enormous turning point in our psyches and in our hearts and in our kishkas. And I appreciate everybody's comments on the matter. I identify with Hanatoni when she said that I always saw myself as such a compassionate person. And where did the compassion go? Which is very, very troubling to me personally on a personal level about myself. And, your mother also, pared it down even further, when she said that it all depends on what other you're looking at. And how do we separate out the others to maybe perhaps the innocent others or the people who don't have their hand in the chaos from the people who continue to stoke the chaos, the fire, the anger, and the insistence upon conquering? And what do you do with all of that? I'm very, I've had such a hard time.
So, yeah, beautiful. I don't know what will solve my problems. I want to see one more quick. I want to like, there's so much more that we're supposed to see today. That's okay. That's wonderful. I just want to open up one more topic to give you what to think about between this week. Not that, there's much to think about. I want to also point out, Linda, that Rabbi Sachs writes, we are not here to solve anti-Semitism. Only anti-Semites can solve that. And I think that's very poignant words, that we're not the way in which, and this is what's so powerful, I think, about making room for the other, and that being the purpose and that being the role of our people, is that just in the same way that God gives the humanity room to fix ourselves, He's not fixing us. It's very frustrating at times. You wish He would just fix us. He's giving us a lot of room and a lot of time. So too, we have to give the people of the world time and space to fix, and we're not going to fix them because that's how the world is built. And the true free choice that they have to embrace otherness and diversity, or is something that we can't control. So I think I want to remind ourselves of that we can let that burden off our shoulders a bit, even though we really are thirsty to know, like, well, what do we do? What do we do about this? What do we do with this? So Rabbi Sachs is saying, love yourself, do your best while doing so to love the other, and love God all along the way. I'm going to bring us into one into one final thought. It's 9 o'clock. If anybody has to go, I mean, sorry, it's 2 o'clock, but or I don't know, there are all sorts of different times like that. But if anybody has to go, then please do. We'll probably go for another 10 minutes. So we'll have a concluding practice. Rabbi Sachs wrote that the goodness, sorry, it's not, he wrote that our difference is not a better than, but our tradition repeats time and time again that our difference is not a simple difference of of uh, of the difference between the right, the pointer finger and this finger. I don't know exactly what. It's not a difference between red and blue. This otherness has a unique flavor, and this is where things get a little complicated. And I do want to go into that complexity. It's found throughout our Torah. We saw it before. We'll see a few of those quotes again. "Ba'atayim shamot yishma'u b'koli ושמרתם את בריתי והייתם לי סגולה מכל העמים כי לי כל הארץ ואתם תהיו ממלכת כהנים וגוי קדוש אלה הדברים אשר תדבר לבני ישראל." If you obey me faithfully, we're going to discuss that further, the dependence upon our chosenness with our following the will of God. "You shall be my treasured possession among all the peoples. Indeed, all the earth is mine, but you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." This theme of the holy nation is one that cannot be denied. Not all peoples, not all nations, according to our Torah, are the holy nations. There is a single holy nation. That is how our Torah certainly paints the picture, and it is us. That might be scary for a variety of reasons, both in what that means in my presenting of our tradition to others, or in how I feel pride or shame in our tradition. But the Torah presents it as a reality. And as we've discussed, I think I certainly feel that we experience it as a reality. We don't need to go into the percentage of Nobel Prizes that our people have received. We can just point to the experience that each of us has walking through this world, in which there's a unique flavor to our people. דבר אל כל הדת בני ישראל ואמרת להם קדושים תהיו כי קדוש אני השם אלוקיכם. Your holiness is tied into my holiness. Be holy because I'm holy. This is a very interesting thing. As we've discussed, just as God distanced himself from the world in order to give space for the world, we too are assigned with distancing ourselves from the world in order to give space for the world. Finally, though there are more, "V'tem li kedoshim ki kadosh ani Adonai va'avdil etchem min ha'amim liot li." If it couldn't get more clear, I have set you apart from other peoples to be mine. I have a people that is specifically mine, and it's you. Kedusha, holiness. You'll see it everywhere within the commentators, but holiness is most often translated as Havdalah, distinction. You're different. Shabbos is different than the week. The Jewish people are different than the nations. We are likened to Shabbat. It is a holy, special day with a unique relationship and divinity. This may be scary on the level of, as we just said, the pride versus shame that I feel in what our tradition looks like to the other. I feel I'm holier than you. I'm better than you. Does holiness mean better? But also in the responsibility that it gives us, which is huge. This is where we'll end in the sources, and we'll pick up here next week in an incredible source. Next week's going to be crazy, but things are going to be fun. They're the really amazing sources. But we're gonna end with the question that is in each of our hearts, which was the question of Korach, who asked, ויקראו על משה ועל אהרון ואמרו עליהם רב לכם כי כל העדה כולם קדושים ובתוכם אדוני ומדוע תתנשאו על קהל אדוני. Everyone's holy, man. Everyone's holy. What are you doing thinking that you're better, that you're higher than, that you are closer to God than anyone else? That's what Korach asks Moses and Aaron. And it's what the people of the world ask us, and what we ask ourselves. You think you're holier than anyone else? You think you're closer to God? Are you ready to make that statement, to embrace that statement? I'm closer to God than the other peoples of the world. The otherness that Rabbi Sachs presents in a very, very soft manner is not necessarily so soft in its depth. So we're going to go into this next week. It is not a simple otherness. It's an otherness of a claim that we have a stronger, closer, holier relationship to God than others. So we'll go into that next week. If you'll join me for another 5 minutes, I wanted to invite you into a writing exercise. At Applied Jewish Spirituality, we always want to draw the intellectual, conceptual down into the self and my work and my becoming a better self and improving. So the work always starts right here, usually in the heart. But the work of embracing otherness starts with embracing my otherness as an individual. So I want to invite you, if you want to write on your computer or on a piece of paper, to finish the following sentence, and then I'll give you one more. One way in which I am different, or in which I am other, is and if you're ready, the second sentence with which we'll end is, this is truly a blessing because okay, there were other parts of it, but maybe I'll send the full practice to the WhatsApp group if you'd like. Thank you.
Nadav,
Yes.
would you mind sending? I seem to have got maybe the first version of the notes or something,
Yes.
but it ends after page 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll send the updated
Brilliant. Thank you.
along with the absolutely.
Thanks for a
Thank
wonderful class.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. It's
The
wonderful.
one you sent in the email, the most
Yeah.
recent, is that the full version or not?
It's not, though it may have included everything we saw. I believe
I think the one that came in my email
Okay.
finished at
it finished at page 6, but I think
yeah.
6 to 8 was added today. So what we didn't see will actually finish soon. It's a wild piece from Rob Cook. It's very, very special. We're going to see the Balatani next week, and I'm excited for next week. That's for the juicy, the holiness, it's really, really hard questions.
Oh, this is getting
All
better
right.
and better.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
This
So,
course.
yeah, I
Thank
just
you.
wanted
Thank
to,
you,
I want to
everybody.
know that
Okay, I'm just going to pause.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy
Bye.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you,
Maharis.
Nadal.
Thank you. I'm just going to pause the
Thank you,
recording.
Rabbi.
Thank you, Linda. Good to see you.